why we should be in favor of animal testing. So, according to the British Royal Society, they released a statement regarding animal research saying that almost every 20th century medical achievement has relied on the use of animals in some way during the development process. So all the medicine we have today, they have been tested on animals and they have been allowed into the market because of testing in animals. Because when you test in animals, because animals are 98% similar. So, okay, sorry, let me rephrase that. The carbon copy of animals and their DNA is 98% similar to that of a human. So instead of undergoing human testing, why don't we undergo testing on animals such as mice? Mice are the ones who have a 98% similarity DNA with humans, and they are the most common type of animals to be used for animal testing. So why has animal testing been done? Because it helps find drugs and treatments to improve medicine in the long term. So for example, if we want to find out a vaccine for, let's say, tetanus, they had to undergo certain processes with animals instead of humans to know if the tetanus shot, for example, the tetanus vaccine will work. And it has been proven to be working. People take tetanus shots when they get hit by tetanus or even when they're born. So by undergoing animal testing, we benefit, the humans benefit, and possibly we can even eradicate certain diseases. Let's say, yeah. And vaccinations help prevent the existence of life-threatening illnesses, such as I said before, tetanus. So, would you want to see your friend going through the symptoms of tetanus, such as suffocation and uncontrollable spasms? No. And because of animal testing, you don't have to see that. These humans get the medicine and the drugs needed to treat illnesses that are life-threatening as this. Another point as to why we should be in favor of animal testing is because there is no other alternative method. We can't test on plants because we don't have the same genetic makeup. We can't test on bacteria because they're too tiny. And we can't test on humans because that's unethical and that may lead to murder. So what else can we test on? We can't just give a drug to humans. We can't just put it in the market straight away without knowing if it's safe. We can't simply sell medicine and prescribe it to people without knowing whether or not it would kill them or whether or not it will kill them. And that's why, if you don't test it on animals, how else will we test the drug? How will we know if it's safe? Test it on humans? Of course not. So, yeah, that's how we will ensure the safety of drugs, by testing it on animals. And it has been proven to work, as I said before. And then, if we're talking about how animals are being treated, some laboratories, they prioritize the livelihood of the animals when they're being held as a subject. They make sure that they are provided with food and shelter. And the argument that they should be treated humanely is actually not that valid because they're not humans. So yes, they should be treated with care and love and compassion, but they shouldn't be treated with humans because we don't even know how to communicate with them. We haven't derived a way in the technological advancement we live in today to communicate with them. So, yeah. Miss, how many minutes?
1 more.
And if we're talking about euthanasia, which is the killing of animals when they're suffering, I think we should be in favor of that. Why? Because, for example, if a drug test fails, and just like every other scientific method, there will be a failure. There is always a failure that comes within a scientific research. And if that happens, and the animal is suffering, we don't know how to communicate with them, so we have to make the best decision for them, which is to kill them quickly, kill them painlessly, instead of letting them go through endless suffering of, for example, the drug doesn't work and they have their deadly liver functions. It's better to kill them painlessly instead of watching them go through pain and suffering as they live. And last thing I want to say is that the most common form of animals that are used to test is myces, are myces. And what importance do myces even have on humans? We don't pet them. What benefits do they provide? They spread diseases. They spread diseases such as let's say, rabies. So why don't we make use of them by taking advantage of their similar DNA to humans to end diseases instead of spreading diseases? So to end the life-threatening diseases, to end AIDS, to end HIV, and to end tetanus and, let's say, other diseases. Yeah. So yeah, that is why I am in favor of animal testing. Thank you.
Alright. For the information of everyone, euthanasia is a painless procedure of ending someone's life. Okay? So euthanasia is used in most of the countries nowadays, especially to patients who's undergoing brain death and coma. Family members will decide like, okay, better end his suffering than let him suffer. So that's euthanasia. Right? Let's hear the other side.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Abel from the negative team, accompanied by Linus, and we are fighting to stop animal testing. Our main argument and our essential idea is that animal testing is cruel and inhumane. According to the Humane Society International, animals used in experiments are commonly subjected to force feeding, forced inhalation, food and water deprivation, prolonged periods of physical restraint, the infliction of burns and other wounds to study the healing process, the infliction of pain to study the effects and remedies, and killing by carbon dioxide, neck breaking, decapitation, and other means. I'm going to pull out some examples. For example, one of them, the Dre's eye test, used by cosmetic companies to evaluate irritation caused by shampoo and other products. It involves rabbits being incapacitated in stocks with their eyelids held open by clips, sometimes for multiple days so that they cannot blink away the product being tested. One of the most common drug used, LD50, also called lethal dose 50 test, involves finding out which dose of chemicals will kill 80% of the animals being used in the experiment. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, reported in 2016 that 71,370 animals suffered pain during experiments while being given no anesthesia for relief, including 5,771 rabbits, 24,000 guinea pigs, and around 33,000 hamsters. Talking about methods on finding out if medicines work on human. In 2018, we have found a research by the California Biomedical Research Association. They stated that in vitro, in glass testing, such as studying cell culture in petri dishes, can produce more relevant results than animal testing because human cells can actually be used. Yes. What else? Animal tests do not predict results in human beings. So, from research, 94%, this is over 90% of drugs that pass animal testing in human fails when they try it on humans. So, when they put it on animals, this drug works. But then, after they try it and try it on humans, it does not work. So, According to this one really famous neurologist, Aisha Akhtar, over 100 stroke drugs that were effective when tested on animals have failed in humans. 100 is a really, really large amount because for one drug, it can take 12 to 14 years to process. And if it fails, they do this process for 12 to 14 years, and it fails in animals, then it just goes to waste. Whereas in in vitro fertilization, it only takes 3 to 5 years to test it out. So that's almost half the amount of years. And over 85 HIV vaccines failed in humans after working completely well in non-human primates, which are animals, of course. And what else? A study published in Proceedings of National Academy of Science of the United States found that nearly 150 clinical trials, which is human tests of treatment to reduce inflammation in critically ill patients have been undertaken, and all of them failed. But because they tested it on animals and then it worked, they claimed that it worked on humans, and it all failed. So this was this brought a big problem in humans, as it killed a large amount of people.